Well, we are joined here today by Ryan Copeland, the head baseball coach at Northern Illinois University, entering his second season with NIU. Came from Illinois Springfield before that, where he was the head coach and an assistant. Also was an assistant at Illinois State. Played at Illinois State. First off, Coach, thank you for joining us. This is something we're trying to do here this fall leading into next year is just bring on quality people, coaches, players, high school coaches, anybody that can provide quality insight to the student athlete right now in Illinois coming through or anybody that's just interested in it. So thank you. I know you got a busy schedule and we're able to get us in here. So first and foremost, thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys and everything you guys do for our game and making our lives a little bit easier on the road recruiting.
Well, that's good to hear. That's what we try to do. We've got kind of a flurry of questions coming from all different angles. We asked X or Twitter the other day if they had any interesting questions for you off the top, and I thought in general we got a lot of quality questions from that inquiry, and then we obviously had some of our own as well. But Gavin, do you want to start us off here with just, I know Coach Copeland, UIS did a lot of really good things there. Yeah, why don't you start us off and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, Coach, what is your process for evaluating and recruiting players, and what kind of qualities are you looking for in both an arm and, offensive players as well?
Yeah, I think first off, every kid that we end up recruiting, we're having conversations with different resources out there. So whether that be their high school coach, their travel ball coach, a member of your staff, a member from a different organization, just trying to get as much information as we can before we actually go out and see them on the road. So I would say when we go, especially in the summer, during that summer circuit, and that's changed a little bit, especially with the high school kids, we want as much background information as we can possibly have. That way, when we get to the field and we actually start the process of evaluating them as a player, we've probably already had a phone call or two with that said, PSA, prospective student athlete. We know about the kid's character. We know how the grades are. We've kind of cross-checked a lot of different people to make sure that's somebody that might fit for our program. Once we actually go see kids, we're pretty well versed on everything they're all about, and my coaching staff does a great job kind of vetting me, before we're out watching players. But you're looking for the standout athletes first and foremost. You kind of look up the middle of the field between the catching position, the shortstop position, center field, and of course on the mound. Those are the guys that are typically going to stand out to you, and you gotta use that information as best as you can and try to project where a guy might play at this level. But we're looking for tools just like everybody else. I think it's crazy to assume we're going to have a player coming into our program out of the high school level with 3, 4, 5 tools, but we're hoping we can have 1 or 2 of those and try to develop some of the other ones to turn them into a pretty high level collegiate baseball player and a potential draft prospect. And then on the mound, we're looking for high-waisted kids with arm speed, kids that have an athletic delivery that they seem to be able to repeat. The irony of that is sometimes you get a kid that's so uber athletic and they move so well, they can get themselves into some extreme positions, which will prohibit their ability to throw strikes. And we know, and you guys know from being out as much as we are, that's the number one challenge nowadays with the arm talent. Is it's better than ever, but getting kids to throw strikes, compete, and be in the zone with a couple different pitches is really, really hard to find, and those guys tend to go pretty fast. So we're doing our best to put all that information together, project as much as we can, and try to build a competitive roster that can go compete with some of the Power Fours that we're up against in recruiting.
Gav, I love that answer. That took me in like 4 different routes that I wanted to go from that, and there's actually some follow-up questions that were along the similar track as you were going. But I want to get to the 11-win improvement you guys made last year, your first year under the helm. And while you're talking about recruiting and guys you're trying to bring in, like, what do you have to do to this roster? What have you already done? You say you look up the middle of the field. Are you trying to recruit as many shortstops as you can and you'll place them wherever when they get here? But just that 11-win improvement and what you guys have going to turn this thing around and get it to where you want it to be.
Yeah, the last year was a good start to what we're trying to accomplish here, and I've told many people this, supporters, donors, our own players, our coaching staff. We need to get to a point in this program where 21 seasons aren't good enough, and while we've received a lot of credit for what we did this past year, going from 10 wins to 21. In conference, we almost tripled our win total. We finished a game or two out of the MAC conference tournament. Those are things that have to be an afterthought moving forward. But I think our seniors did such a good job last year, and we had 16 guys move on in graduation. Colin is playing pro ball with the Angels. He was a free agent sign. And those guys did such a good job of buying into everything we were trying to do. We knew our roster was our roster. There wasn't a whole lot we were going to do from the time that we took over here in mid-June of 2023 until the time that those guys reported back to class. But we had to try to change the expectations inside our program. That starts with me and our coaching staff, trickles down to our players. But I wanted to change the expectations for the people in the state of Illinois, especially the Chicago area. I think Northern Illinois baseball has been kind of an afterthought for a long time. And a lot of people like to focus on the things that programs don't have and the resources they might be missing. But I like to focus on things that we do have. And we have a facility that's improving every single day. As I speak right now, TrackMan stadium units being installed at our field, thanks to a couple of very generous donors. We have a beautiful indoor facility, and we have a great weight room, great resources in terms of support staff. So we're excited about that, but we have a long way to go. And while we did some good things last year, we need to continue to elevate the expectations of our program from within and from everyone else outside of our program. And we're really excited about the direction we're headed, but we got work to do.
With elevating your program, getting it to where you want to get to, Tyler, I wanted to turn this over to you because I kind of stole your first question, but you had a follow-up question with just kind of the landscape of college baseball now and how he's trying to get to that point to where his team, where he wants them to get to. And there's a lot of different avenues that you can take in today's recruiting landscape with high school, all that stuff. So go ahead there, Tyler.
Yeah, Coach. So my question basically, with that quick of a turnaround, especially in the win-loss column, how vital was maybe the transfer portal to your guys' success last year? And building off that, moving forward, how do you plan on marrying the two, transfer portal recruiting and high school recruiting?
Yeah. So last year when we took over, there was some information that got leaked in May. And we were finishing up our regional, the D2 level. We were hosting for the fourth and sixth years, and we were hosting a regional. We got knocked out, and there were some rumors flying around our program about me and the possibility of me leaving. So we ended up having some exit meetings later that week after we got knocked out. And the general question at the end of the meeting was, Coach, I have to ask, I've heard this about Northern Illinois. Is it true? So right away, you kind of have a choice to make, and I chose to be transparent. And some of the players that we knew we maybe wanted to take along with us, those conversations were had. And we knew there were some incoming commits that we had, time that followed us over here in the 2023 season. We were able to bring over Adam Brower, a Christian kid, ended up being second team All-MAC last year. So we definitely used it to our advantage. With the coaching change, there's always a lot of roster changes with that. So that we got a little more talented just in the week or two since we took the job. But moving forward, I think you have to really have your ducks in a row. As you guys know, our rosters are going from 40 to 34, and I think we want a balanced roster. I think there's no doubt, especially coming this May and June, the portal is going to be once again going to be pretty crazy, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of the trickle-down effect of some of the Power Fours having to cut some of their guys, whether they're incoming players. We've seen a lot of that with the 2025 high school class, or if they're current players that they just don't see that are going to be able to make that 34-man roster, and they come down, they find a new home at a place like NIU, and we're able to continue to elevate the talent pool that we have on our rosters. That being said, we want a balanced roster. We're going to continue to recruit high school players. I think for us, we have an opportunity to end up bringing some talented kids here to campus that maybe in another year we normally don't have. And if you look at our last two high school classes, I think they're pretty dang good, and I think we're doing a good job in the state of Illinois. But we want a balanced class. We're going to hit the JUCO stuff really hard, late August, September, October, into November. And then the biggest change for us in recruiting has probably been the summer. I think we spent just as much time last year following around kids in the Northwoods League and the Prospect League. I was at some localized, Chicago summer leagues watching one player go play 14 innings, and trying to balance that out with the high school recruiting has been tough. But I think we're all trying to adapt with the times, do the best we can. But now more than ever, you want an older roster. You want an older roster. You need a close team. So trying to bridge the gap between high school, JUCO, and portal is extremely tough. But we're all in the same boat, trying to do the same thing.
Well, and to your point on Illinois and getting after it, the high school players, like it's been evident. You guys have been aggressive. You guys have been locking up some Illinois guys, some guys we're really familiar with, and love to see it. Tyler, I don't know if you had a follow-up thing there that I cut you off on.
Yeah, real quick, Coach. You talked about how crazy portal recruiting is going to be for you towards the end of the year. Who handles that? Is that your recruiting coordinator, or are you working like 20-hour days monitoring the portal and also running a program?
Yeah, we'll check the portal daily, and it's pretty quiet nowadays. You're looking for the random grad transfer that maybe is looking to get out ahead of the recruiting for May. But for the most part, all of our recruiting goes through Joe Kelch. He does a fantastic job, and we want to be aggressive. We want to be the program that is pushing the envelope a little bit, maybe forcing some other programs into some earlier decisions than they would like to. But Joe does a great job, and so does Calvin Peacock, our pitching coach. But we meet pretty regularly about where we're at in recruiting, and now more than ever with us trying to figure out a way to get down to 34 to best address who gives us the best chance in the 2025-26 season to go win a MAC championship and get this thing right and find a way to get back to the postseason for the first time in a long time. So yeah, it's every day. It's ongoing. It never stops. Sometimes you're on the couch on a Tuesday night. It's 11 p.m. and you just get an urge to go check the portal just to make sure you're not missing out.
that 11 o'clock urge to go check the portal, huh? I don't
Never
know if
stop.
I want that urge. Well, you mentioned something earlier. You brought up a name, Brockbill, and I want to turn this thing over to Gavin.
Yeah, Coach. Ty Brackbill, you mentioned, was a freshman that you had. They came over to NIU with you. And last year, just looking through your stats, it looked like he led the team in innings pitched last year. So I want to know, how do you prepare a freshman to take on a role like that, throwing that many innings?
Well, you really can't, to be honest. I would say Ty did a really, really good job given the circumstances. I don't think it's really fair for very many freshmen to come in and be expected to be a Friday night guy at this level. And he had a really good fall for us. He threw a bunch of strikes. The velocity would continue to tick up. He's a super high-level athlete. He's always been super successful as well at the high school level. So we looked at it like we had an opportunity to maybe throw him into the fire, so to speak, and maybe take some lumps along the way. But in turn, we thought that giving him that opportunity to be our Friday night guy as a freshman was going to help him in his long-term development. And it was a mixed bag. He had some really, really good outings where he did a great job and won some games for us, and he had some outings where he really struggled. And I think that's pretty normal for a kid in his freshman year. But I think he's going to be much better off because of it. But Ty's in a great spot now, had another good fall. You guys probably saw him 88, 89, 90 in high school, and he's ticked up to his last start in the fall a couple weeks ago was 90, 94. For 3 innings, added a changeup, kind of hybrid splitter, and just trying to get him the best well-equipped to go be a high-level Division I Friday night guy. So I think some of the things he went through as a freshman were certainly going to help him out as he continues his development here at Northern Illinois.
Yeah, sometimes there's nothing better than just get thrown in the fire and figure it out on your feet and how to compete, and that's impressive stuff there. Because if I'm not mistaken, like Brockbill, he was a UIS commit that you guys had.
Yes.
And you then go over there to NIU, and he's throwing on Friday nights for you. So that kind of speaks to the job you were doing at UIS. We all saw it. It was impossible not to see what you guys were doing there at the D2 level. And I know Peter Hammett, very familiar with UIS. He played at Lewis. Not sure, how many times he faced off against your squads over there. I know you were an assistant coach when he was playing. But Pete, you've got some questions for Coach. I'm just going to give you the floor here.
Yeah, Coach, good to have you on. So I I saw firsthand how quickly and dramatically UIS changed when you were handling the recruiting there. So I want to know how did you attack changing the culture there, and how did you do it so quickly? Because it seemed like my sophomore year, so 16, 17 year, then the next year you guys, all of a sudden you had like Justin Revels, you had Andrew Dean, all these new arms, just new pieces. How did you go into building that roster?
I think first off, I was able to work for someone in Chris Ramirez that kind of gave me just free reign to do whatever I wanted to do in recruiting. And certainly there's some challenges there financially with recruiting and making sure you're on the road competing against those D1s in the state especially. But I had had all the power just to make those decisions, offer kids. It's something that I'm very, very thankful for. And Chris has done a great job. He's now at Southern Indiana in his first year, and I learned a lot from him. But I think I always wanted to Division I type players, and without roster limitations at the D2 level, we were able to cast a pretty wide net, and I think we were pretty creative. We were willing to take some kids from California, from Arizona, from Texas that maybe we hadn't seen as much as we wanted to, knowing that without a 35-man roster or a 40-man roster, we could miss a little bit more. And then it seemed like as we got going, we just didn't miss. We got some lucky breaks, some kids that were kind of throw-ins in recruiting to help get another kid to your program. They ended up being really, really good. And Justin Revels was a two-time All-American. You saw how talented he was, and a tough, competitive kid. He was at Grand Canyon out of high school. We never saw him throw live. We saw a video. It was pretty dang good. He had great numbers, but it was in a wood bat league down in Arizona at the JUCO level, so we were a little unsure. Campus, and you're like, wow, that guy's pretty good. We hit on that. And then once we started to get a couple of those types of players, I wouldn't say it got easy, but I think the expectations of our coaching staff in recruiting and my expectations when I transitioned from recruiting coordinator, pitching coach to head coach during the fall of 2019, they're incredibly high. We knew what we were looking for, and I felt like a lot of times we were out recruiting some of the Division I's in the Midwest, and some of that was because we had a good scholarship situation. Some was the roster spots, but I was fortunate enough to be around high-level baseball and be around some high-level arms and some bats, and play around guys like Yadi Molina and Adam Wainwright, and played for Mike Schild and Ali Marmol, and I think experience in that regard does matter a little bit, and the rest was history, and we had a good thing rolling down there. But I think we always took a lot of pride at Illinois Springfield in recruiting Division I players. We were not a D2 program, we were a D1 program, and we happened to play in the D2 conference.
Yeah, no, I can speak to seeing that firsthand. I agree. So that brings me to my next question, not really related to that. Well, I guess it could be. So this is talking summer ball now, because with the portal, I know it's all changed so much. Before, it was probably a little bit of like trying to get guys seen in their summer leagues with being Division II. I know you had scouts coming to CUIS, but maybe sending guys to the Northwoods to get them seen by the right guys. Now, has it changed at all with the portal? And what dictates where you send players in the summer is my main question.
I think when I was playing, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that you went out and played in the summer. And I don't know about you all, but you were kind of judged a little bit if you wanted to go home and just train and just work out. That wasn't a thing. And I had some pressure from my coaches, Coach Brownlee and Coach Kingston, to go play. And so that's what I did. But it's definitely changed. I think the biggest impact that the 4-4 transfer rules and now unlimited transfer rules for it all the time is we're a little hesitant to send our best players out, especially to the Northwoods, the Prospect League, the Coastal Plains, and if we have a player good enough, of course, the Cape. There's a lot of stuff going on out on the road, and I don't think sometimes it's malicious, so to speak. I just think that there's kids that are playing for summer teams and they're uncommitted, they're in the portal, or there's really good players that become close with some of these guys, and they're just a text away from their coach to say, hey, if we need an arm or we need a shortstop, I got a guy for you. And then next thing you know, that recruiting coordinator is on a plane to go see that guy. So we tend to be a little careful about it. You like to think that you have a great relationship with your players and they want to be in your program, and that no matter what happens, they're going to stay loyal. We just know that ultimately that's not the case, and I don't necessarily blame players when people are throwing around hundreds of thousands of dollars of NIL money and full rides. It's really, really tough, but we are careful about it. Typically, we have conversations with our guys in the fall pretty early because they're trying to book their rosters for that following summer pretty early. And from there, we kind of give them some say. Some kids that are from St. Louis, for example, on this year's team, they don't get to go home very often. It's 4 or 5 hours away. So we kind of let them, if they want to go back home, play in a local league, we're perfectly okay with that. And we look at it like they're probably safe from some of the poaching that goes on in the portal. And we have some other players that they're adamant that they play in the best possible league, whether that's Northwoods, the Cape. And if that's what they want, hopefully we've done a good job with them. They're ready for that. And we have a good relationship. And we can trust that they're going to return to DeKalb in August. So a little bit of both. We'll give them some say. But if we have a freshman that needs innings or needs at-bats, we're probably going to send them to the place where they can go develop the best. And sometimes that's just from playing. I think a lot of people have lost sight of the ability to just play baseball and how much that can mean for someone's development.
Love it, Coach. And Gavin, I'm pretty much through the questions here, so I wanted to turn
Yeah.
the floor over to you. If there was any other questions that you did not ask, and then if we want to ask some of the submitted ones, so I can let you
Yeah.
lead the way here.
Coach, I actually have one more question. So I know that you yourself and some of the team got to go watch NIU beat Notre Dame in the football game this year, which was probably super awesome for you guys to see with your athletic department. But how can you guys and you as coaches take away from that and kind of utilize that win and just the energy that you guys felt with your own team this next year?
It was a pretty special moment, I think, obviously for our football program, our athletic department, but we have 200,000 alums in the Chicago area. This is a place that has a long-standing tradition of success in the sport of football, and that success is something we're trying to find for ourselves. And forever, it's been known as a football school. And I think our job and our objective as a coaching staff is to get people to think of us as a baseball school. So being there myself, we did it right. We tailgated, got there about 9 in the morning. 6 hours outside the stadium before we even walk into Notre Dame Stadium. You can imagine how we were feeling, but it was a blast. And the amount of text messages that I was getting, throughout the game. And then, of course, you find a way to win that game. And the impact it had on baseball recruiting was unbelievable. Futures games kids that have big league deal a little bit, all of a sudden are reaching out and telling you congratulations. They want to come to campus. That's a true story. Coach Couch would be like, hey, guess who just texted me back finally? And so I'm pretty tight with Coach Hammock, so I thanked him for that. But, for me personally, being there, seeing that happen, the joy of people in the stadium. There was a good amount of Northern Illinois fans there and alums and donors and supporters. It was the first time for me where I was like, man, this is cool. Like, I have a lot of pride for where I'm at right now, just like I did in my time in Springfield. I think no different for you guys. You work at a great company, but the first few months you're like, okay, yeah, I'm here kind of finding my way. And then you start to really, really care about it. And that was kind of the first moment for me where I'm like, damn, this is really cool to be a part of this department. And, hopefully our players, I know they were watching, having a good time. We had a handful of them that were there, but they had a big gathering that night. And, campus was probably pretty cool for them. Gives them a good glimpse of what it's supposed to feel like at a high-level program. And hopefully we're able to experience that as a baseball program here in the not too distant future.
Yeah. All right. Well, Coach, so as you probably saw, we had sent out a tweet for some, parents, players, whoever, to kind of send in some questions for you. So the first one we have here is from Carlo Gazzi. His question was, what's your order of recruiting priority? Portal, JUCO, high school, or, pitchers, catchers, shortstop, left-handed bat, etc.
I touched on it a little earlier, but I think the priority goes to what time of the year you're in, really. The fall is always going to be junior college dominant. That's who we're able to go see. I'm a big believer in recruiting kids from the junior college level. We have quite a few on this year's roster here. I know the roster we inherited. We had a lot of junior college kids from some really good programs. Then as you move into the quiet period, we can't go on the road from basically mid-October until early March, relying a lot on relationships. You're finishing up and tying up some loose ends, maybe on the high school stuff. Of course, we've already began our 2026 class, so we have a couple commits in that class. And then you get into the spring, and you go back to following up with the junior college class. You're going to see high school games as much as we can, but you guys know, we travel on Thursdays. Those first 5 weeks, we don't get back till late Sunday night, early Monday morning. We have Monday off, and sometimes we have a midweek game Tuesday and or Wednesday. So we don't have a whole lot of time to go see high school games in the spring, but we are following as much as we can. And in reality, you're following the Division I rosters of programs where maybe they have some players that you recruited out of high school, you lost that battle initially, and you check in. Are they playing? Are they throwing as much as they thought they'd be? So you start to get an idea of maybe what that's going to look like when the portal opens up in early June officially. And then, of course, you get to the summer, and man, it's junior college. It's high school, of course, and it's portal stuff. So usually we map out our recruiting, a week or two in advance, and we all know where we're going. But then things come up, and you get a random text from a coach who's got this guy transferring, and a text from one of you guys about a kid that's maybe decommitting, and so you're kind of chasing kids all over the place. But it really never ends, and so we're always going to prioritize the best players available. And like I said, we will continue to recruit high school players, but they kind of all blend together, and you got to be pretty dang organized to keep up.
Yeah, Coach. So Matthew Musso here, he wants to know, what is the best way to get a scout to respond or pay attention to you?
Yeah, I assume he means as kind of as a player. That's just how to stand out on the field. Whether that's ability to really, really run. That's why we have Jalen House here. That was a question initially that we talked about, guys like him and Jack Olson. But, Jalen House was a kid that we thought the hit tools maybe a little behind, but he played a really good center field, and he was the fastest kid in the Midwest, if not the country. So we looked at it, and Coach Kelch and I went back and forth on Jalen a lot 2 summers ago, and Joe followed him and followed him and followed him. He just couldn't go drive a ball in a gap, and we wanted to like him. We wanted to go see him. I worked at camp with him, and then we got to interact with Jalen. I really enjoyed him. I thought that his aptitude was extremely high level, and the comment I made to Coach Kelch was, if Jalen goes to a junior college in 2 years, and we're at the Puma Classic, and we're watching him, is there a chance that there's people drooling over him and he goes to a Power 4? And the answer was yes, no doubt about that. So we ended up taking Jalen, and he has had a great fall. We think he's got a chance to be really, really good. Still not quite there, but we're excited about him. And he had the one tool, which was the ability to run. He was athletic. So we got to see some kind of tool like that, whether it's a really strong ability to defend up the middle. They can really run. Maybe they're a corner-only guy, but they can really, really bang that bat speed. They can go show present power and future power at this level. So we're just trying to find tools and find athletes. And if you're not the premium athlete, you better do something else really, really well, whether that's behind the dish or playing a corner position. Spoke to the left-handed bats. That's something we learned the hard way this past year. We went through our entire season in 2024, and we didn't have a very left-handed dominant lineup, and everyone else did. And we also didn't have very many left-handed relievers that could get those guys out, or right-handed pitchers with changeups. So we go play some of those programs, and it felt like every single inning it was just a gauntlet to try to get through the left-handed bat. So we stocked up with a bunch of left-handed hitters ourselves, and we're really excited about that. But at this level nowadays, you got to be able to get left-handed hitters out. So for all the lefties out there, you're one step ahead already, and you got a chance to really do some damage at this level because they're hard to get out.
David, sorry, go ahead.
No, it fires me up to hear you talk about a former Illinois prospect that's doing well in your program. And Jalen House was a guy that we were very familiar with and got to see him kind of come up through high school. And I really thought he took a step forward with the bat from his senior fall to the senior winter we saw him at our pro case. And it was a much cleaner path than I had seen in the past. And you mentioned he's one of the best runners in the state. And I felt like before it was a lot of lifted contact, some loop in the swing. He got in more direct, was on the barrel, and it just looked a lot cleaner. So I was really excited for his future. And he was still uncommitted at that point, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong by that. He might have been committed to you guys at the pro case. But to see him have a huge fall, and we talked about it earlier on a podcast, when somebody has a run tool like that, or just big tools in general, you're going to follow that bat as long as you need to really figure out if he can hit. Because if he can hit, or if you think he can hit in your system with Coach Kelch working with him, you're going to take a chance on those tools. So that got me fired up when I heard you call out Jalen House. But go ahead, Gavin, if you had anything else there you wanted to ask.
Yeah, David Bentley wants to know, how much do you rely on trusted contacts, like a high school coach, a JUCO coach, a travel coach, in your recruiting process with kids?
It's everything to us. I've always felt like I've had good relationships with the high school coaches in this state. a lot of them are at the same school that they were at when I was, at Elk Grove High School. I was an '06 grad, and I think they were pretty energized when I took over because they felt like I was one of them. So the relationships we've had with high school coaches has been outstanding. I'm really, really happy with the way that's going. And there are eyes and ears. They're everywhere we can't be for 4 or 5 months of the year. And then a lot of those guys are also double dipping with the travel stuff, and we rely on them a lot. I think we try to get as many opinions on a kid as we possibly can. Especially because we just can't afford to get it wrong very often with the rosters going to 34. So if we have a handful of coaches that are telling us not to take a kid and to stay away, we probably need to listen. And on the same token, if we have a bunch of coaches that can't speak highly enough about a certain kid that we're recruiting or maybe considering offering, it's probably one that we need to pull the trigger on. So we like to reach out to a lot of opposing coaches as well, and we do that a lot with our high school kids and get feedback from the coaches that have to compete against those guys. And same thing with the players themselves. We might have a kid on campus, and we might ask for their opinion on some of their teammates, and those kids will tell you the truth. And if you ever need to know something about a kid, why not go directly to some of their teammates? So huge resource for us. I really, really believe in developing those relationships, continuing to build upon those, and listening to those coaches because they have a whole lot of more information than we typically do.
Well, Gavin, I was going to say we should probably try to wrap this up with one last question. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I think we should end with the best one here, and it's from Ashlyn Beasley. So one question she had, and I think I might know the answer given the fact that you mentioned you guys are getting a stadium TrackMan unit in there, but she said, what do you geek out on more, spin rates, exit velocities, or Game of Thrones? Also interested on your take of automated strike zones. So What do you got on? There's got to be some backstory here, but what do you got?
Yeah, so back like 7-8 years ago, I think it was when the Cubs were making their run, and I grew up a White Sox fan, but the Cubs were making their run, and that's when they first started putting the box consistently on the broadcast, and like there would be pitches that were thrown through the strike zone, and maybe they weren't caught as well as they should have been, or maybe it was more of like a 12-6 down or breaking ball, and that clip that did that automated strike zone, and the catcher caught it, and it looked horrible, and so I was kind of anti-automated strike zone, but nowadays, that's just where we're going. Everything has become so high tech. We have a metric for everything. So I think that's the future. Certainly, I think the college game tends to follow the MLB's lead with some of that stuff regarding technology. And a lot of times, the guinea pigs are often the AA and the AAA level. But there's also some things at the college level that we've done that MLB has picked up with regards to technologies. Yeah, you guys probably know I'm a pitching guy at heart, so I love all things vertical approach angle and spin and break and all that good stuff. But Ash is she's having a good time with it. So she's a baseball gal. She knows more about the game than me. So
that's great. Well, with you saying that, it made me interested. Like, what are some certain metrics? Because we've used TrackMan now for the last couple of years with prep baseball. Like, are there certain metrics that you are going to right away? Like, it may not even be the fastball velo, but release height with the IVB. Like, does it depend, I guess?
Yeah, it probably depends on, right-handed, left-handed, stature. The one outlier one we love, and I've had a lot of success with it, is the undersized right-handed pitcher, especially if you can find the kid that, is under 6 feet, that has a super low vertical approach angle. Those guys are going to be really, really tough for those guys to hit. We had one in Ryan Carmack at Illinois Springfield. He ended up transferring out after the 23 season and ended up going to Oral Roberts and pitching their weekend rotation. I think with us, he struck out like 140 guys in like 70 innings. It was unbelievable. He had an invisible fastball. So, it's easy to go to some of your events and some national events and go pull out the radar gun and see 92-95. Like, we all want that guy. And the reality is we're probably not going to get that guy very often. So we try to look at some of the other advanced data and how can we find an outlier arm, a kid that maybe doesn't throw as hard but tends to get a ton of swings and misses on a fastball. Maybe the breaking ball shape, there's something unique about it, whether it's the horizontal break, the type of axis it's on, and we try to use that information, that data, to try to find what we used to call diamonds in the rough, which are pretty hard to come by nowadays. So that's how we'll use it, and certainly having access to the TrackMan system, to be able to look up numbers, especially when we hit portal season, is going to be invaluable to us in recruiting.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for you and what you've done in your coaching career so far. You're one of those guys we always see out. You are a worker, tireless worker, whether it's actually being there on the at the field or just on the phone, doing everything you got to do to get that program where you want it to be. I cannot wait to see what you do over there with NIU and just yourself and your future and your coaching career and the relationship that we've had. My favorite guys that I see when I'm out on the road and I pull up to a field or walk over to a field and you're standing there grinding, it always puts a smile on my face. And we'll be following you and can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yep, thank you for the kind words and for everything you guys do for high school baseball and obviously junior college baseball and portal stuff now. And hopefully we get this thing rolling. And a lot of that would be because of you guys. So thank you and go Huskies.
Good stuff. Thanks, Coach.